When I joined, B'nai B'rith or Sydney Lodge and Sydney chapter were a very formal group of people who were run by the old people at the time. They seemed old to us, of course, and an initiation ceremony was an unbelievable thing. We used to have a very, very formal evening. It was a dinner, and the women were all dressed, had to wear a black dress, and had to wear a corsage of flowers on them. They wore white gloves, and we walked in to the sound of music as a very formal, probably something by a Mozart funeral march or something. It was absolutely, it was so formal, and if anybody had cracked a joke, I think they would have cracked everything.
I've been a member since I was 17 or 18, as I said right at the beginning, and over the years we've progressed, both of us, through the ranks. We've been deeply involved in the major projects that B'nai B'rith has been running over the last 70 years, because we're about to celebrate the 70th anniversary of the foundation of B'nai B'rith in Australia. And during those years, those many years, we've done everything from being secretary, minute takers, vice presidents, presidents, and I've actually served I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 year term as president of B'nai B'rith Australia, New Zealand, which is the top job and paid exactly the same salary as all the other jobs we've done.
Well, B'nai B'rith has given me confidence. When I first joined, I was a very shy sort of a person and couldn't address an audience, got scared, like an awful lot of people still do, to talk to people and so on. And over the years, it's given me the confidence that I can get up in front of a group of people and talk without dying of fright. The other thing is that we have met so many interesting people through B'nai B'rith, because Henry and I have attended quite a few conferences. And for instance, a person who lives in America, the United Nations.
Harris Schonberg.
Harris Schonberg, who was the United Nations.
He was a B'nai B'rith representative at the United Nations.
And we have become very friendly with him, and we still get an enormous number of emails and so on.
We've actually stayed in his house, and he has stayed in ours on a visit to Australia.
And he is very much, he doesn't work for B'nai B'rith anymore, but does work for the United Nations. And people like that, people of that standing, we have met really, really interesting people, not only in Australia, but overseas and so on. And again, it all ties in together with the confidence. You feel, when you meet people like that, you feel like something, like somebody.
In younger years, we travelled quite a bit and went to a lot of conferences, international conferences of B'nai B'rith, Washington, Chicago, New Orleans, and New York. And of course we attend all the triennial conferences in Australia. The way I see the future is that B'nai B'rith will become an organisation dedicated to projects rather than individual lodges and chapters, because the social side of it and the fraternal side of it has become old-fashioned and is dropping by the wayside. It's the projects that are holding it together these days.
I agree with that, because the need for B'nai B'rith, as it was at the beginning, is not there for the social part. The social part is well taken care of by the synagogues, by the schools, and by other organizations where people can meet, and where B'nai B'rith was virtually originally the only organization that catered specifically and only for Jewish people. Now it is totally different, and I agree with Henry entirely that now it's going to be a project-oriented organization, and things like Courage to Care and things like the B'nai B'rith Bargain Bazaar, and all these things are
The retirement villages.
the retirement villages. These are the things that will keep B'nai B'rith on the track and will keep it going.
For us to imagine life without B'nai B'rith would be unthinkable, because as awful as it sounds, we are so involved with it, and most of our social life and our closest friends are through and within B'nai B'rith. We often feel guilty that our friends who are not members of B'nai B'rith are being neglected by us, not because we want to neglect them, but every time we say, let's do this or that together, we get a phone call, somebody's died, somebody's sick, there's a meeting being called, whatever it is. It has become so much part of our lives that to even contemplate the idea that we suddenly would not be members of B'nai B'rith would be like suddenly not having each other.
There you go.